I want to first thank you all for coming here today. I know that we have been, with regard to Mr. Shannon, very reticent to talk about his case and those things in the press. But I wanted to take a moment today to talk to you for a little bit, and then I'll give you some time for question and answers, to talk about my client Franklin. And I want to do so because I feel like he has been painted a picture that does not reflect who he is. And that's through no fault of your own. It is through our commitment to not airing this issue in the press. And of course, I feel like we have not had that same respect on behalf of the university. Franklin is the son of Joe and Phyllis Shannon. He was raised in South Oak Cliff in Dallas, Texas. He's a very bright kid. From kindergarten through high school, he was on the honor roll every semester, every year. He's a 4-point student. He graduated in the top 2% in his class. He had academic and football scholarships, and he was offered a scholarship at the University of Texas at Austin based on his academics. Franklin is a math whiz. He enjoys math, was good at it in high school, was the captain of his football team. His parents always pushed him really hard and told him to do his best. He has never had a disciplinary action at school. He has never had any negative law enforcement contacts prior to this incident. Skyline High School was a magnet school, and in order to get in, Franklin had to write a letter, and he had to show that his grades were up to par and that he was somebody that should be admitted into that school. He did that. He also won awards throughout school, Student of the Year over and over again. He won an award for his architecture. He likes architecture, so he, when he was in high school, took those kind of classes, and he made a condominium. And he had done so well that he won an award for that, and his picture of that condominium hangs in the Dallas Museum of Art in Dallas, Texas. This particular incident, I believe, arose because Franklin Shannon refused to have intercourse with a female student. It upset her, and the rest is history. Charges were not filed in this case, I believe, for 2 reasons. One is, first and foremost, is that there's insufficient evidence. Secondly, the DA said because the victim declined to prosecute. As you all know, a prosecutor can file charges even when the victim declines to prosecute if there is sufficient evidence that a crime has been committed. That did not happen in this case. We are here today so I can tell you those things. And secondly, we're here because of Franklin's inability to play football. He's a student athlete. He's a smart kid. He's an obedient child to his mother and his father. He was in the depth chart as the starting linebacker up until about last week. Prior to that, he was told that he was just going to stand on the sidelines and watch everybody else practice. When they took him off the depth chart last week, it was after the filing to the Supreme Court. We have reason to believe that the university has asked that he be removed from the depth chart and he not be allowed to play. My client's position is one of strength for a 21-year-old. What he said was, I will not quit. I will continue to fight to vindicate my name, and I will stand on the sidelines in silent protest about how I'm being treated with regard to this incident. The University of Oklahoma has failed him. It's making him a scapegoat when they have evidence, credible evidence, that these allegations against him have no basis in fact. I'll tell you what I did as his lawyer, and I've told the university. When Franklin came in, I had him polygraphed. I had him polygraphed with regard to the allegations in the Title IX report. He was polygraphed by a former law enforcement officer on the Highway Patrol who'd been trained in Quantico. He passed that polygraph with one of the highest scores that law enforcement officer had ever seen. The university is aware of this. I want you all to understand that Franklin is the kind of kid that grew up with a dad and a mom in the house who taught him to do his best at everything and to live a life where his name was not besmirched. He is resolute, as I am, that he is going to clear his name, and he is not going to quit until that's done. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
You met in district court on Wednesday, correct? With both sides.
That's
can you
correct.
shed any light onto that? I know the documents are sealed.
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying that's correct is because apparently before I could even notify my client of the hearing, it was on the sports animal. The time of the hearing, or that it was in the afternoon and the day. And so how that got leaked, I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm telling you anything I shouldn't since it's already been leaked to the press and it was not leaked by myself or my client. Yes.
And I know that you're saying that he will stand silent in silent protest. So he's just taking part in practices, but we won't see him on the roster.
You know, the university and Coach Stoops has the ability to play him if they want to. And I don't know what their decision is going to be. But as I know, as I sit here right now, it is my understanding that he is not slated to play. And the coach can make a decision about that at any time.
But he will be sitting on the bench on the field if he's not playing.
Yes, he will. You know, he had a decision to make whether he wanted to go or he didn't want to go. But he said, I'm going to go because I'm not going to cut and run. And I don't want people to think that I've given up my fight by not showing up. And so he's going to be there. He's a strong kid. He is resolute. He's an honest kid. He's a good kid. And so he said, I'm not going to run. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to continue to practice and play if they will let me.
Still enrolled, taking classes?
Yes, he is.
His major?
I don't know what his major is. I think it's communications. It's communications. We talked about architecture, and I thought that was what it was until I talked to him a couple of days ago, and I think it's communications.
After the Supreme Court hearing, when you made your brief statement, you said that if OU continued to discuss this publicly, you were going to move to have the record unsealed so that Frank could defend himself publicly. If the sealed records are beneficial to him, why wouldn't you just do that anyway?
Well, they are beneficial to him, but when you talk about a case with the allegations that are here, it was our hope and wish to protect the anonymity of both the alleged victim and my client at the same time. And that's why we sealed those records. And you know, what angered me was that he's not getting that same benefit.
Was there alcohol involved in that incident?
Not with regard to my client.
So your client, he was not, there was no alcohol in his system whatsoever?
Not with regard to my client.
Ma'am, if you assert your client's innocence, why do you think it was that he was not found innocent in the Title IX proceeding?
Well, what I'll say is this. The university has seemed to be very worried about Title IX and their vigorous enforcement of it, and that has not stopped them, in the face of the truth, from continuing to pursue this matter against my client.
Does Frank have support within his team or support at the university of him?
I believe his teammates are in support of him. He also has a lot of community support. He attends church, and so last weekend he was at Prospect Baptist Church and received a lot of community support for what he's going through right now. He's a strong kid. His mom and his dad are present. We talk. If there's something going on with him, he'll call me. I told him I don't care what time of day or night it is, and he does. He has continued to hold his head up, go to class, do what he's supposed to do. But it's a tremendous strain on a 21-year-old. But he's tough. He's tough. I'm real proud of what he's been able to do in the face of what's going on with him.
So Frank has been in uniform, but barred from team activities in practice?
No, he's been in uniform. He's barred from active practice, where he's getting snaps and things of that nature. But he's been in uniform, standing basically on the sidelines where they're scrimmaging and that kind of stuff. And apparently he's not going to be allowed to play tomorrow.
Ma'am, is there any sort of legal timeline for, I mean, I realize season starts tomorrow, and it sounds like every moment this is in court, there's no way Frank can play. So.
You know, it was our hope that based upon the proceedings to date that had stayed his suspension, that he would be treated fairly with regard to that. And that hasn't happened as far as I'm concerned by the university and also by his football coaches. That's not Frank's viewpoint on it. He's much more charitable than I am. He says that he understands to a certain extent what's going on, even though he doesn't agree with it. I don't know what the timeline is. The Oklahoma Supreme Court is, I think, on summer recess. So I don't know how long they're going to take on the matter that was filed before them. We have a briefing deadline we just got in the district court case, and that's about all I'll say about that. So I can't really talk about those proceedings because of the sealed order in that.
Is your argument purely about his innocence in this matter, or are you arguing their ability to? Are you arguing their ability to investigate these things when charges aren't formal criminal charges aren't filed? What exactly are you arguing?
His factual innocence, and I think I've said that before. And there are additional due process, and I think some constitutional violations, and how the university went about the process in this particular case. So I'm arguing those also.
There was when this first came to light, and we were trying to sort of get a handle on precedent, and if something like this had happened before, there was a case up at Iowa State involving a basketball player that was removed, I think, from their program recently, and it got to that state Supreme Court. Are you familiar with that case? And if so, does that help your cause at all?
Well, you know,
he came out ahead in that.
Yeah, each state has their own discretion in how they implement Title IX student conduct proceedings, and so each state's procedure is a little bit different. And it is my argument that the way it's implemented at the University of Oklahoma denies the students of due process rights and some other constitutional rights, in addition to my client's factual innocence.
How were you connected with Frank? Did you know the family before? Or?
I've done civil rights work here in Oklahoma for a long time, and so apparently when they were calling around, my name came up, and he called me, and we had an interview. And I'm pretty good about what I take and what I won't take, and then looking at the individual to see if it's something that needs to be litigated or something that needs to be settled and moved on. And in that determination, you know, we've got a duty as lawyers to look at what we file and to look at what we defend, and also to look at the options that you have other than litigation for him. And what Frank said very clearly early on was, I didn't do anything wrong. I did not do that, and I want to clear my name. And so we started off from the outset on that basis, which is why I almost immediately had him polygraphed. Because you're talking about someone says you did something and you're saying you didn't. And so I immediately had him polygraphed, even though looking at the information that I saw, there were clear issues with whether or not it occurred at all.
And he passed that polygraph.
Yes. He passed it with regard to the allegations of sexual misconduct that were brought against him in the proceedings. Yes.
Again, I hope I've got this right. The Title IX mandate has become more important for universities in light of the it seems to me your problem is specific with OU's handling of the mandate. You're not.
I agree.
You're not arguing against.
No.
The need for there to be follow-ups on campus for when things like this happen.
Let me just say that there is a burgeoning outcry across this nation about how Title IX is being implemented by universities. Now, on one hand, you have universities that aren't doing a good job of pursuing, investigating, and taking care of sexual misconduct cases. On the other hand, you have universities that have gone so far out of kilter with going on cases that are clearly incredible, that are cases that wouldn't last 5 minutes in a room with people with just average intelligence, okay, including myself. So they're going so far overboard because they're worried about the fact that the Title IX office can come down and investigate and make a determination they haven't gone as far as they're supposed to, and they'll lose funding. So it's my belief that my client, even though there's ample evidence that he should be left alone and that this shouldn't have proceeded to the level it is being scapegoated so that OU won't have to face any questions about how they run the Title IX program. And that has been done in the face of, without any regard to the truth or falsity, I believe, of the alleged victim statements. So
you're not necessarily saying OU is doing anything for sinister reasons. You think they're just trying to protect themselves? Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if I can't characterize if they're sinister or not. I can just look at the cause and effect on my client, and that cause and effect on my client has been overwhelming with regard to how they've handled this case, and I'm not happy about it at all. And I believe it was done in a way that violated his constitutional rights. I feel strongly about that.
If you and Frank both feel like he's been mistreated, Was there ever any discussion about him transferring, going somewhere else, if he didn't just getting away from a place that he thinks is mistreating him so much?
You know, we had that conversation without regard to his case. You know, he's got one more year of redshirt eligibility, and so he could do that. And I told him, you think about it and let me know what you want to do. And he said, I'm not going to run, and I'm not going to be branded a rapist. I'm going to stand and fight. And so he's doing that at great personal and emotional expense, and also at the risk of his NFL career, if there is one, and also at the risk of losing this year his eligibility. He's just wasting it standing on the sidelines. So I asked him, do you really want to do this? And he said, I'm not going to let them brand me something that I'm not, and so I'm going to stay and fight.
Are you concerned that even if he's vindicated, that long-term that his relationships with the folks who are making this decision right now will be damaged beyond repair as he waits?
Well, let me just say this. If he had a relationship with the folks that are putting him through this process that was worth a flip, then we wouldn't be sitting here. So, you know, we can't worry about his relationship with them now. And we tried. We tried to.
Coaches in particular.
You know, I think, and I'll say this, I think that the coaches are in a difficult position. You know, Franklin's not playing because he's not a good football player. Franklin's not playing because he's somehow ineligible. He's not playing because of the situation that's going on right now, and I think it is unfairly punishing him. And I don't know what, you know, my client's standing up, but it appears at this point in time that he's the only one that's standing up for himself. And I would include the football team in that, the football coaches. And I hate to say that. He feels a little bit differently. I don't. You know, they teach our kids to fight hard on the field, never give up. And then when, you know, they've been supported for the most part, and all of a sudden when it gets hot, they're gone. So I have a problem with that. You can't teach what you don't model.
If you and Frank are unsuccessful in this, in getting the suspension overturned, what would he do if he has to leave class, you know, in the middle of a semester, things like that? Are you concerned about those sorts of things?
Those, I think Franklin has thought about those things, and he's okay with the odds, and he's okay with the consequences. He's fine. He'll be all right. I believe that. I just know the kind of kid that he is. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. There's damage to him. There's damage to his reputation, and this is not the last step of the fight.
If you are successful in vindicating him and he's allowed to stay and the battle in court ends, would you then consider some sort of lawsuit against the university for this? Is that something you guys have talked about?
I can't tell you if we talked about it or not. I'll just say this is not going to be the end of the fight.
Is it realistic to think that he, I know timeline's kind of, with regard to the case, is as long as that's nebulous and up in the air, I guess it's possible in terms of a timeline as to when you'd like to see him on the field again with this program?
The university and Bob Stoops has the ability to put him on the field right now. They're not precluded from doing that. This is a voluntary decision that they have made, which I don't agree with. And so they can put him on the field right now. This lawsuit is not holding them up from doing that. So it rests with them to either do the right thing, or Franklin will be standing on the sidelines in silent protest about his treatment.
Do you get the feeling they prefer him not be on the sideline Saturday?
Depends on how his backups do. And then Frank's got to make a decision if he's going in or he's just going to stand there in silent protest. Now, won't that be interesting?
Yeah, it would be.
What do you, I mean, is that, if they need him, if his two people in front of him get hurt, is he going to stand there?
I can't answer that question for him. That's a decision he's got to make. He's a young man, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he has loyalty to his teammates. He really does. So I don't know what he's going to do. I would expect, knowing Franklin the way I do, if they need him, even despite how they've mistreated him, that he will go in and he will play with every bit of heart that he has. That's just the kind of kid he is.
Do you know if all this is ongoing, if he'll travel to road games?
No, I don't know any of that. I'm kind of a football nerd. And when he told me about the depth chart, I'm like, depth chart? Why would you be worried about a depth chart? He's like, okay, let me explain it to you. So I'm a civil rights lawyer. I like to watch football with the intricacies of it and stuff. I'm not the one.
Was it a couple weeks ago, or was that the first time the coaching staff sat down and talked to, or told Frank about his situation? Because it's our understanding when practice started, he practiced.
That's right.
And then when school started, it changed. Did they sit him down and tell him, or?
No, when it wasn't until about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that he was pulled from active practice and stopped getting, the ball thrown to him and that kind of thing. So this is fairly recent. This is fairly recent, and it occurred around the time they filed a writ to the Supreme Court. And prior to that time, they were given the authority to allow him to play free and unrestricted. And that's what he was doing. And he was slated to play and slated to start.
Have you met with members of the coaching staff personally?
No, they're represented by counsel, so I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't be able to do that.